Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
Nero was a light war game by Phalanx Games that came out years ago. It was a game that was in a series that seemed to be for that light introductory war gamer, but upgraded the components somewhat. Now, when I say somewhat, I mean compared to today's games. Compared to the games that were coming at the time, you had a mountain map, you had these really nice chits, everything looked really good. It doesn't have like the miniature craze that we're going through right now, but it did look a lot better. The problem with Nero is it's really an area control game, but there's no reason to area control. That's not going to be the winning strategy. So while it tries to be this war game with combat, with area control, it's not going to work because that's going to be the least definitive way to win. The way to win in this game is going to be Turtle. Get all of your troops in one space and just go through the Roman time period and just demolish everything in your sight. It's also going to have a distinct advantage for the person who goes last in order because they'll be able to save up their cards and just bash through and everybody else is done, and there's no way for anybody else to combat that. That's as long as a little bit of luck goes their way, but there should be quite an advantage there. Nero was widely considered one of the worst games in this series, and I would have to agree with that. If you're really looking for something introductory, like Battle War or Memoir 44, maybe you want something a little bit different than that, because you don't want the miniatures or the great-looking components, yeah, why would you want that? Then I would say maybe go to something like this. I think the game would accomplish it, especially if it takes you a couple games to not do that. That where you just get a massive army and go through and you actually try to play with the intention of the game, i.e. to learn war games, then I think the game works well or okay. But that's a lot of I got to shoehorn this in so you can play this game. When there's so many games on the market, you could totally skip this one and just find a better game. And that's what I'm going to recommend to you. There's not a whole lot here to like outside of at the time period the components are really good. I like the Nero. I like the history of Nero. I like being able to add that to the game. But the game itself, total bomb. Do not buy this game. Do not play this game. Absolute purge for me. Here is the box for Nero, Legacy of a Despot. Strategic board game by Alexander S. Berg. This is the old Phalanx Games. There used to be a lot of these introductory war games, that I would call them, with pretty good components. You're going to see some rule books that'll be included. I'm going to have a player aid that will pop up. Actually fairly good. There's one for each player, and they're actually fairly good quality, believe it or not. You're going to have a game board in here, which I'll pull out, and then you're going to have a custom insert that will have the tiles. It will have these wooden pieces. You will come with these leaders that we punch out. I was using an alternate source for these. I upgraded mine a little bit, was using different pieces, which is why I didn't use these. But these are actually really nice cardboard stand-ups. And you're going to have these cards, which are actually really good. I don't know why. I know these are a little thin, but I love this type of card. It's one of my favorite ones. But you can see there's a piece for everything in here. It's custom. You have these little tiles that are really cool. They're not those chintzy chits you get in a lot of war games. And they have nice little pictures on them. So the components are actually really good for a war game, especially for this time period. Here is the rule book that you're going to see, a very different artwork than what's on the front of the book. You're going to have a contents list over here with an introduction and a component list. No pictures, wah, wah. But you are going to get that later on over here, a little bit about what's going on. You're going to have the cards and how they're broken down and kind of how they work, battle points and movement points and the wants and how they kind of work there. A lot of terminology. Then the starting the play and kind of how you go through that and how to play if you want to do it with 3 players, which I do not recommend. Then you have the general course of how a turn will go, and then I'll go into more detail like here is movement. And that's how you move and withdraw from different places. Move your leaders. And then the battle, which is the big part. Really, this game's really about just moving and battling. That's all there is to it. How to become the emperor down here at the end, using cards as events, and then a description of the cards and how they go. And then how to win and how to score victory points at the end. You do have these really nice player aids. There's 2 of these, so you guys can go back and forth, one for each player. One has a list of the cards, which you'll see on this one. Then this one gives you the movement points and kind of how everything costs. And when it's your turn, you just hand these 2 to the person, and then they can kind of use it and they hand it back when it's your turn, because there's not a whole lot of interaction on somebody else's turn. Here's the board all laid out. I'm not going to go too far in detail into the rules.
because I don't feel like I'm an expert on them, but the general idea and flow of the game is the only thing that I want to utilize and show off here. So what you're going to be doing for the most part is you're going to be having these cards, and here are the cards you'll have, and you'll have a handful of these, and on your turn you can play up to 4 of these. So if you had 4 of these cards, you could play up to 4 of these, and when you're out of cards, you're done for the turn. So you may have more than that in a turn, so you would play 4. Once you play your 4 cards, the next player would go. On your next turn, maybe you'll play 2. Next guy would go, and then maybe all the way down. And the game does play up to 4 players, so there is a little bit of an advantage to going last in this game. But what you'll be doing for the most part is you'll be playing these cards for movement points, which is up here in the left. And you'll just take your little troops, and you can move them around the board. So if you have some troops on the board and you want to move them around, it's really just a movement place to move them into your spot, and you can just move them around like so. This was your guy, you would spend a movement point and just move him to the next spot. That's really not the big deal. The other thing on these cards that you'll see is battle points, and this is where combat will come into play. So whenever you fight somebody, you're going to get 1 battle point for each legion that you have there, and legions are just chits, which add up into an army, and then you will get bonuses if you're led by an emperor or a contender, and you can play these cards. So this card, for example, will give me 3 battle points, and I would add to that. This one would give me 2 battle points that I would add. Whoever has the highest wins. If you win, you take one of their legions. It's now one of your people, and then they would have to retreat back out. So there's not a whole lot of not negativity to lose. You're just going to lose 1 guy, then you retreat from that spot. One spot on the board that's really important is Rome. And when you're in Rome, you can become the emperor. And that's a very powerful position because being emperor is going to help you in your battles, and it's also going to give you victory points at the end of the game. Now, one of the big problems with this game is it's going to allow you to turtle. And that means you're going to get these gigantic armors. Now, for the most part, you're going to get points for having area control over these areas of the board. The huge problem with the game is that you kind of have a... If you do that, somebody's going to come in with these bigger stacks and just wipe you out. Boom, and you're going to be gone. Really isn't going to be much you can do to defend yourself. So even though that's kind of how you score some points, you don't really want to do that because you're just going to get blasted away. So this game kind of tends itself to allow whoever has the big stack, and you get all your guys in one army and just kind of walk across the world destroying them. Perhaps it's thematic. I can't say that it's exactly fun. That's one of the big problems with Nero. Now, another problem with Nero is there's a last player advantage. So whoever's going last definitely has an advantage because they can just move their army last and take over the entire board. So there's quite a bit of that. Overall, it's not a great game. Nero isn't something I'm going to recommend as a war game. If you really want to get down some of the mechanics down, it's fine. But I don't feel like it's a very solid addition. I'm not going to spend too much time on the rules, but just know that you're going to be playing these cards. They're also going to have actions at the bottom you can do if you just want to play a card for an action. You could do so. But for the main part, you're going to be moving around and using these battle points in order to take the area on the board and wipe out your opponents.
Who should buy this game? Nobody. Maybe, if I have to shoehorn somebody here, introductory war gamers, maybe you're playing this with your kid and you know that strategy that will win, but you don't utilize it. You try to play the game by the rules. I think if you put a count on how many armies can be in a space, I think the game works a lot better. But I'm not really big on changing the rules of a game. I would just buy a game that works, and that's what I would recommend here. Absolute Purge. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you liked it, please like it and hit that little subscribe button. That really helps out the channel, lets us know that you're getting the videos that you want. If you agreed or disagree with what I said, feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I promise that I will comment back. Thanks for watching, and everybody else, keep playing.